Hello, Year 7. Here are the answers to Wednesday's lesson this week about organ systems. So to begin with, I gave you a little hint about the next coming questions, and I reminded you about one of the specialized cells that we had learned about in a previous lesson called a root hair cell. And this is the one that is found in a plant, not in an animal on the head near the hair, but the one that was found in a plant. And it has some special features that make it better to do its job. So in the middle here, it's got this large vacuole. That means it can store lots and lots of sap inside it. Its job is to take in lots of water. So if it's got a large space, it can take in more and more water. It can fill that space up. It has these hair-like projections that stick out, which increase its surface area. So that means it can take in more water and nutrients at the same time compared to if it didn't have those extra projections. It's got lots and lots of mitochondria in case it needs to use energy to take any of the minerals up. And it has no chloroplasts. So it is missing the chloroplasts, and that is because roots are underground, there's no light, so there's no chance of them carrying out photosynthesis. Now, the next few questions were based on this picture. But what's brilliant about this app that we're using is that you can go back. So if you see a question and you don't know the answer, you can flick back to the picture and double check before you choose your answer. So state the adaptations of the root hair cell and what they help the cell to do. Well, I didn't add that to the answer, but the adaptations are large vacuole, hair projections, no chloroplasts. So all of the answers were very similar. You needed to just make sure that you looked closely at those hints I gave you to help you answer that question. What is the function of the mitochondria? So that this is to get energy from food by respiration. Which part of the plant stores the cell sap? That is the vacuole. I'll just go back and show you. I even labelled that. Vacuole contains cell sap in the bottom in the green. Okay. And thinking back to last lesson when we talked about organs and tissues, what was the definition of an organ? So it is a group of different tissues working together to do a job. Next question was to name as many of the organs in the body as you could. And I was very, very impressed with the effort that you put in. I did put the picture in to help you, but I was pleased with the ideas that you came up with. And then some looking back. From our last few lessons, we slowly made our way up what are called the levels of organization. Organization just means how living things are put together. So how are we kind of made? And we started with cells, which was the lowest level, the smallest one. And a group of similar cells working together was called a tissue. And groups of different tissues work together to form organs. And that's the stage we've got to now, where organs will work together to form organ systems. So an organ system is a lot of organs working together to perform a certain function in the body. So the words highlighted are the ones that people had highlighted as they were going through. So organization is just the way that living things are put together. An organism is a living thing. Cells are the tiny building blocks of life. Tissues are groups of similar cells. Organs are groups of different tissues working together. And then the organ system is the group of different organs. You were asked on your piece of paper, so we've asked you as this whole topic's gone along to keep notes on some paper. So hopefully you are just adding to them each time, and then when you come back to school you can put them into your book. But today's definition was an organ system is made from a group of different organs which all work together to do a particular job. Okay, and then Mr. White posed this question. I know it's my face on the slide. Mr. White has been planning your Year 7 lessons for this week, and he asked you to think back to what did you know? Which organs did you name? Could you group any of them together, relating them to their jobs? Are there any that you thought might be the same organ system? Did you know the names of any organ systems? So it's just something for you to think about before we began. We actually have a lot of organ systems in our body. Luckily, we don't need to learn about all of them at secondary school. If you want to become a scientist, you probably have to learn about a lot more. Okay, so the first one was the digestive system. The job of the digestive system is to process food we eat, break down the chemicals so that we can absorb it into our blood and it can be transported around the body. Now, I would say on a question like this, where it's like, can you name any parts of the digestive system? If the answer is no, just write no. And then at least I know that you've had a go at the question. You haven't just skipped the arrow at the bottom. Okay, so there's lots of organs in the digestive system. Food goes into our mouth, where it's chewed by our teeth. Salivary glands produce spit, which mixes with the food so we can swallow it down our esophagus, which is sometimes called the food pipe. This goes to the stomach, and then the stomach joins onto the small intestines, which join onto the large intestines, which then join onto the rectum and the anus. Passing that tube, we also go past the liver, the gallbladder, and the pancreas, which produce the chemicals that break down the food. Okay, the next one was called the respiratory system. This organ system helps to get oxygen to our cells so they can perform respiration. And it also makes sure that carbon dioxide is removed, because carbon dioxide is toxic. So if we look at these different organs or body parts, air can enter our body through the nasal cavity, which is the two holes in your nose, or through your mouth. Both of those tubes will join together. That's why sometimes when you laugh really hard, you can, like sneeze milk out and things like that. I don't know if that's just me and my friends. But your nose and your mouth both join onto a tube called the trachea. Now, the trachea runs down your throat next to your esophagus. So there's actually two tubes that are separated by a flap of skin, which is why you choke when you eat too fast. You try and breathe in, and food will try and go into your lungs, and then that flap of skin will stop it from happening. And then your trachea goes down to your lungs, which are made up of different bits. We'll learn a little bit about those later on. Circulatory system pumps blood around the body and makes sure that oxygen and nutrients get where they need to be. The blood also removes waste, and the blood also transports white blood cells to kind of heal infections, and also platelets, which will then clot the blood. And this is made up of the heart, which is the pump, and arteries, veins, and capillaries, which are the different tubes that our blood can travel through in our body. We have the reproductive system, which allows us to reproduce, and that means to make babies. So biological females have a vagina, biological males have a penis, and those are the organs that are used to make babies. Okay, and you can see the vagina itself is just a small part of the reproductive system. We also have ovaries connected to tubes called oviducts. You might know them as fallopian tubes. These pass into a kind of triangle area, which is called the uterus. That's the place that the baby grows. There's a cervix, which is like a ring of muscle that divides the uterus from the vagina. Your bladder is also included in these pictures, but it's not really part of the reproductive system. It's just very close to the parts. In a male, you can see that there is the penis and there are the testes. And then joining these two together are different tubes. So you've got a sperm duct, which is the tube the sperm travel up. And then that will come out of the end of the penis to move the sperm into the female reproductive system. Next is the nervous system. This delivers information around the body by the form of impulses, which can be attached to your muscles or glands, and then these cause your body to react to different situations. So if your brain decides it wants to pick up a can of Coke, it sends an impulse to your hand telling the muscles to contract around the can of Coke. Okay, this is mainly made up of the brain and the spinal cord, which runs down the spine, the bony bit in your back, and then the nerve cells that go out to all the different parts of the body. And then we have the musculoskeletal system, which is your muscles and skeleton. And this is what allows us to stand up and move, and it supports us and it protects our vital organs. And it's got lots of parts to it, like muscles, tendons, bones, ligaments. Okay? And we'll learn about the skeleton in more detail in the future. We've got an immune system. So this contains different organs in our body that will fight off diseases and keep our body healthy. So this isn't a very good picture, I realise, but it's kind of your lymph system. So lymph nodes and lymph vessels. And then you've got bone marrow, which produces some of your body cells. And you've got a spleen. You've got your tonsils. That's probably the one most of you have heard about, at the back of your throat. Your tonsils kind of catch infections as they come in. Okay, so on to a few tasks for you. You had to match up the different system to the job that you thought it did based on those descriptions. But do you remember you could flick back? So if you didn't know, you could have looked back. So the respiratory system allows the exchange of gases in and out of the blood by breathing. The immune system fights off diseases and infections and keeps the body healthy. The digestive system breaks down nutrients from food into chemicals so the body can absorb and use them. The circulatory system pumps the blood around the body, taking oxygen, nutrients, and waste to where they are needed. And the musculoskeletal system provides support and protection and allows the body to move. What is the job of the reproductive system? Now, all of these organ systems relate to the 7 life processes from the very first lesson. So if you remember Mrs. Gren, movement, respiration, sensitivity, growth, reproduction, excretion, nutrition, they're the things that we have to do to stay alive. So what you'll find is that most of these organ systems relate to one of these life processes. Now, reproductive system and reproduction sound the same, so hopefully that is the one you chose. The nervous system is to do with sensitivity, so it reacts to the surroundings of our body, and then it causes changes in our body or reactions by passing on those nervous impulse messages. Okay. Different cells that we've learnt about. So when we did about specialized cells, we can now link those to these different organ systems. So you might find, for example, a nerve cell in the nervous system. Red blood cells are in the circulatory system. Muscle cells are part of the musculoskeletal system. And sperm cells are part of the reproductive system. Which system does food travel through? That's the digestive system. Which system allows gas exchange through breathing? That's the respiratory system. Which system uses impulses to send messages around the body? That was the nervous system. Which system uses sperm to pass on genetic information? That was the reproductive system. And white blood cells are an important part of which system? So the answer out of all these choices would be the circulatory system. However, I would argue, if there was the choice, that it would be part of the immune system based on the job of the white blood cells. As I said on my very last slide, you are doing amazing. I do miss your faces. I miss seeing each of you every day. Make sure that you are going back to Google Classroom at the end of each assignment to hand it in. I'm so very, very proud of all of you and the hard work you're putting in. And I can't wait until we can have some online lessons and we can have a proper chat and a catch up. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.